Hey, well, welcome everybody. Thanks for coming into the RapidSOS session. Wow, 20 minutes with a lot to talk about, so buckle up. We got a lot to go through. I've got Michael DeRose, one of my colleagues, is on with us in the chat. He is ready to answer any questions that you have during the session, so you don't have to wait till the end. Ask us questions. Michael's going to field them, and maybe we'll have time at the end to unmute and ask more. So the whole idea, well, let's see here. Bear with me, my fast forward isn't jumping just yet. There we go, sorry guys. Here's what we're gonna do, a quick introduction for those of you who don't know RapidSOS very well. We'll talk about the evolution of the Rapid Emergency Response Data Platform, how we use integrations, and the importance of the portal. And I'm gonna just harp on that and this new tool we call Jurisdiction View. So for those of you who don't know RapidSOS, the genesis of the company really comes from this idea that call taking in the 911 world has two serious limitations. There are many limitations, but two of them are A, location from cell devices is inherently poor. And going back 15, 20 years, all we had was phase one, tower only. Even when we went to phase two, location was notoriously undependable. And the other part is that dispatching is extremely voice-centric. Everything we do, done over the phone, done over the radio, dispatchers listen extremely well and translate that information to dispatchable events. They've learned to interrogate people about where they are. But in this day and age, there's really no limitation to what we can do to bring in additional data and present it in a manner that is very useful to the dispatcher. Not this 512 bytes of parsed data, but really in a dynamic presentation. And then the data that we have available to us, limitless, because from the IoT world, not only is Google and Apple presenting precise location data from the device itself, they're providing profile information, but we're getting information from connected cars about crash metrics, and information from security companies about intrusions and sending alarm data, information from connected devices and health devices and monitoring companies. There, again, no limit to it. And all that data comes through what we call this emergency response data platform. And then we present it to you in the dispatch center. And we do that by a couple ways, but I just want to pause for just a minute and say, I hope everybody isn't threatened by this idea of this volume of data that we have. It's easy to be threatened by that, and I don't blame you. But keep in mind, when you're interviewing callers in the 911 center, all you're doing is collecting data and transferring it to an event. You're doing the same thing here. It's just that we're presenting the same information digitally, but we are very conscious to do it in a simple manner that doesn't overwhelm or paralyze the dispatcher. We want to be able to, at a glance, view data, collect it, pass it on to the first responders. So we're not going to get into data at all, really. What it's going to be about is about how to access the platform, the RapidSOS platform. And we do it in two ways. The RapidSOS portal, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but partner integrations. And the partner integrations is really, it's an important way that we pass data to you in the comm center. We provide credentials for many CPEs, CADs, mapping systems, digital recording systems, and more. And we give those credentials to you, and you give them to your provider, your CAD or CPE, whatever. They apply those credentials, and all of a sudden you're able to see RapidSOS data coming right through the CAD or coming right through the phone. And you don't have to divert your attention to another screen. If you're in California, you, by courtesy of Cal OES, have a free Rapid Deploy integration. And they are one of our integration partners. So if all you have is a Rapid Deploy, that's great. But we're going to give you some other options so that you have a little bit more power to go portable if you absolutely had to with the RapidSOS portal. So here's some of the logos from our integration partners. As you can see, there's a score of them here. But this represents probably less than half of all the different integrations we have through CADs, phones, et cetera. So take a look and see if your logo is up here. Like I said, everybody in the state in the 911 center is using Rapid Deploy and the Rapid Deploy map. But you could also have redundancy by having it on your CAD, having it on your phone, even if you have Smart 911 RAPE. And I am all about redundancy. If my days in managing, helping to manage a center here in California, it was about redundancy, and I wanted to have backups to the backup. So having RapidSOS portal in multiple solutions in your center, I think is critical. So moving forward and slowing down a little for you, RapidSOS portal is a browser-based tool that allows you access to the same data that you are getting through your other systems. So if you had 4 integrations, CAD, map, phones, and RapidSOS portal, and every one of them were querying the same phone number at the same time, they would all be returning the same data to those centers. It's all about the redundancy. So this portal is important. And earlier, if you were on Steven's session on the AT&T, from the AT&T group, he was talking about the importance of having a customer portal where you have access to control your account. So if all you have is an integration today, then you don't have the portal, then you really have no control over your account. If that exists, it's simply because you were one of the earliest adopters to RapidSOS in that data through that integration. Right? Today, if you were to apply for the first time for RapidSOS access, we require the portal. And we do that because the portal provides more, like Stephen was talking about, more than just the base data of the location. Here you're seeing what the portal looks like when a phone number is queried. You get to see the call moving in near real time with breadcrumb trails, and any data that comes with it would appear on this screen. But you also have access to other features. Now, you come into the portal and there's actually a training tab. And you click on that training tab, and all of a sudden you have access to all the training tools you need to be able to train your dispatchers on how to use the portal, how to use jurisdiction view, which we'll talk about in a minute. But not just that, but some training on some of the existing systems. If you want training on your CAD, your phone, and want to understand how the integration, the RapidSOS integration works through that, you take that training, which is specific to your other devices and integrations. Training center, really important. Here's another feature inside the portal. This is where you start to have a little more control over your account. So first of all, if you do have multiple accounts, I mean, there's some agencies that have 5 different integrations in the state, here in California. And you want to know at a glance if everything's working fine. We actually provide in the portal a test button. You come over here and give that one click, and we instantly test in the connectivity of all your different credentials across all your systems. And if everything's working, that's great. If there's ever any problems, we will detect it here and let you know and open up a ticket to get that, start getting that resolved. But the other feature I want to bring your attention to is this add new integration credential feature. And when you click on that, we give you the opportunity to see a drop-down menu and say, what credential do you want? Well, first of all, we tell you right away what you have. So you might be an agency in California that has Sunridge, RIMS CAD. Everybody has Rapid Deploy. We want everybody to have RapidSOS portal. And if you do have the portal, maybe you want to get one credential for your phone too. This is where you come to get it. You click here, fill out the credential request, and we process it. And we turn that around in a couple of days. You give that to your CPE provider, and they'll configure your phone for you. The other piece that is important is the fact you can upload zip files containing your shape files for your boundary. And the boundary is really important for us for a couple of reasons. One of them is we want to make sure we got your area correct. There's a couple boundaries in California that we found were undersized. We were talking earlier about those early adopters that are grandfathered in without a portal account. And they were given this boundary box, and we found that they were a little too small. We didn't know it until that jurisdictional boundary was submitted, and we could instantly make that correction, add a 10-mile buffer to the boundary, so that your coverage is correct and you're not omitting any of your population from having the protection of RapidSOS. And when you submit a boundary, we actually do some QA processing on it, and then we send it back to you for verification. So you look at the boundary and you see it here and you say, click it off and say, yep, that's correct, let's get going on it. And we do. So again, I'll pause again. RapidSOS portal, any 911 center in California is eligible to have the RapidSOS portal. If you're a center that takes 911 calls directly or a primary, or you take it as a secondary, there are agencies for whom 911 calls are transferred in on a 10-digit line. You are still taking 911 calls, and you are eligible for a RapidSOS portal account. I want to emphasize here, the portal, again, is a browser-based tool, whereas all integrations I know of are bound to the workstations typically. They are tied to the CAD, they're tied to the phone system or whatever. If you had to evacuate your center, or you wanted that detail in, let's say, an EOC environment or out at a command post or on the fire ground, there's no way to do that. But with RapidSOS portal, it's internet and browser-based. You can give access to somebody in the field or in any one of those environments so that they can have that level of visibility, same as a dispatcher. But imagine that in an evacuation, right? So I was talking to an agency recently who evacuated their center up in Oregon. Their center was being threatened by the fires. And they took with them radios. They took their staff and they relocated another center, and the only other tool they took with them was RapidSOS, because that continued to give them access into the visibility of caller locations. So just another word about this jurisdictional boundary. We talked about defining the area. So you have a boundary box, which is meant to be a 10-mile buffer at least around your boundary. But once we have the shapefile, for primary PSAPs, we have an added feature that we call jurisdiction view. Now, jurisdiction view, we use that shapefile to actually proactively push data about 911 events as they occur in near real time to your center. So you can see these pins populating on the map, and you can start to see data emerge in clusters, and you can click on an individual event like you're seeing here and see the individual event along with its breadcrumb trail, or come back to the original view and see that the pins as they're populating on the map. So it's really about situational awareness. I think this is one of my last slides, because we're going to pause here and talk about several things on this. This was a shot from an actual event which occurred here. Sorry about the background. This was an actual event that occurred in Sacramento. Sacramento PD, if you're on the line, I'm glad to have you here. Thank you for being an early adopter of jurisdiction view. This happened in the Sacramento Center. Right after clearing the screen of all the pins, they had a fresh screen. We saw this pop, 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 pop on the freeway. And as you know, if you're from California, that it's unusual to have overlapping primary PSAPs, but we do. Anytime CHP has a freeway corridor coming through a city, they are the primary along that corridor. And for Sacramento PD, this pinned on the map, and their phones didn't ring. For the first time ever, they had visibility into something happening in their city, and all the calls were ringing at another center. It turned out to be a brush fire. So, but that's still important, right? You think, well, great, they had visibility. Well, it is important because it affects this event. I guarantee you affected the city surface streets, right? So if you are diverting all traffic off the freeway because the freeway is blocked or impacted for the fire could take 2-3 hours to resolve itself. And now all of a sudden you have a flood of cars coming onto the surface streets. So you want to give attention to that. Or perhaps perhaps this affects your routing, and now all of a sudden you can't go from one beat to another. You have to consider alternate dispatch. It's just this situational awareness just for this one event was remarkable. But beyond that, the situation also points to this lone caller over here outside the event. So if you are handling numerous calls all at once, and your lines are lit up because of this, you can actually look over here and say, oh, this guy is probably not reporting the fire. I want to find out what he's reporting. And you can pull his number out of the queue and get to him first instead of getting to him in a first come, first served basis. And that could be crucial seconds in a save. Imagine it's a cardiac arrest or major medical. You want to be able to get to that first and get to it sooner. The other really cool thing about this, I mean, there's many cool things, but this data comes in so fast that it populates on the map many times 10 to 15 seconds before the phone rings, because the carrier is still processing it. And that brings me to this final point. Imagine what this tool could have done for you if you were in the South or Midwest or all the way up to Minnesota on the day 2 weeks ago when we had that major outage and none of your 911 lines were working. Cell phones don't know that. Cell phones still send us their location when they try to call 911, and we still send the location to you. So you might be looking at a map like this and your phones aren't ringing, but you still have the data because of jurisdiction view to be able to see where that caller is, see when they called and what their phone number is, and then call them back from a 10-digit line or from an alternate source and find out what the emergency was. And this isn't theoretical. This is exactly what happened 2 weeks ago by a number of our agencies. I encourage you, if all you have today is just the one integration and no portal, go get the portal. Go to RapidSOSportal.com. Get this. It's an imperative tool. We don't charge. We do all of this for free to 911 centers. So we don't charge for it. Go get the account and get access to other integrations and really empower yourself to be able to have more information at your fingertips. And I think that's it.